It was the missing ring that did it. Not mine, hers. Her engagement ring, the same one I spent 6 months designing with a jeweler in Florence, had always sat neatly on the ceramic tray by the sink whenever she took it off. She was obsessive about that little tray. "So I never lose it," she used to say, even when brushing her teeth. That Sunday morning, I was rinsing out a glass when I noticed the bare tray. Empty, no ring, no indents, no glint of the diamond that used to catch the sunrise through the window. The house was silent. She had gone to a team-building retreat up in the Catskills, supposedly 2 nights, no signal, no laptops, all about disconnecting to reconnect. I didn't ask too many questions. I trusted her. Or maybe I just thought I did. I stared at that tray for a long time, my hand still holding the dripping glass under the faucet, and I remember this odd, mechanical thought creeping in. Maybe she forgot to pack it. But no, she never wore the ring on outdoorsy trips. Said she didn't want to lose it hiking. She always left it in the tray. That's what made this different. It wasn't lost. It was missing, and that meant she took it with her. My fingers tightened on the glass. I turned off the water. The silence in the kitchen was now suffocating, like something unseen was watching me, whispering just out of reach. I went upstairs, slowly, not really sure what I was looking for, but feeling like I had already found it. Her suitcase was gone, obviously, but I noticed the closet door slightly ajar. She usually closed it. Inside, her white cashmere travel sweater was hanging loose on the edge of a hanger, not tucked properly the way she always did when packing light. And below it, her black weekend duffel, the one she used for short trips, was still there. That's when my stomach started to go cold. She didn't take the duffel. She didn't take the clothes she usually wore for these kinds of corporate retreats. I opened her drawers. The usual bralettes and sports gear were untouched. But one drawer, the bottom one, her lingerie, was slightly pulled out. Not wide open, just nudged. And empty. Completely empty. Like someone swept an arm through it and shoved the contents into another bag. My mind clicked through the possibilities like an engine refusing to start. I wasn't angry. Not yet. There was just this eerie quiet settling into my chest, like dust on an abandoned room. I sat on the edge of the bed. Her perfume lingered faintly on the pillows, Santal 33, warm and smoky. I used to love that scent. Now it smelled like theater, like a mask. I picked up her iPad from the nightstand. She never brought it on retreats. Too heavy, too distracting. The screen lit up instantly. No passcode. She trusted me. Or forgot. I opened Safari. Her tabs were cleared. Recently closed, empty. History, blank. I tried calendar. Nothing out of place. Then mail. Just newsletters and work crap. And then, out of sheer muscle memory, I tapped photos. I don't know what I expected. Maybe nothing. But her recent album showed a burst of 6 new photos, all taken the night before. At first glance, they were generic. A dimly lit room, a wine bottle, a shot of her feet in heels. Those red ones she only wore to high-end cocktail events. And then, the last one. A mirror selfie. Her face partly visible, neck tilted, bare shoulders. Wearing a silk robe I'd never seen before. And there, in the corner of the mirror, behind her, a man's jacket on the chair. Not my jacket. I zoomed in. Navy blue, Hugo Boss. I don't own anything Hugo Boss. I set the iPad down slowly, like it might explode. My throat felt like sand. No rage. No outburst. Just clarity. Like the last piece of a puzzle finally falling into place after weeks of something feeling off. Her phone calls had been shorter. The way she kept turning it face down. The new fitness regimen, the sudden Pilates obsession. She used to make fun of Pilates. Her laugh had changed too. That hollow, distracted chuckle like she was already somewhere else, living another life. And now I could see it all. Not just the betrayal, but the effort she put into hiding it. The ring missing from its place. The curated lie about retreats. The careful manipulation of routine so I'd stay compliant, predictable, quiet. I looked around the bedroom we once shared and felt like I was standing in a museum exhibit titled Marriage. A place curated to feel familiar, but long since abandoned by the living. That was the moment everything changed, not when I found the proof, but when I realized she knew I'd never look. She thought I was too steady, too naive. She thought I'd never question her, never follow the threads. That was her biggest mistake. Not the affair. Not even the lies. but underestimating what a man does when the ground beneath him shifts and he sees the truth for what it is. Not just betrayal, but contempt. She thought I was soft. They say routine is comfort, but in hindsight, I see how routine can also be a blindfold. Our life together was the kind people envied. The kind you post about. 2 good jobs, a nice condo with tall windows and 2 mini throw pillows, vacations every 6 months, shared Spotify playlists, and a fridge with matching mugs for his and hers. I made the coffee every morning. She watered the plants. She had her standing desk set up in the corner, and I worked in the spare room turned office. At night, we'd cook together, talk about our day, watch a show we were both too tired to finish. On weekends, she liked farmers markets and yoga, and I'd tag along, half listening while she debated heirloom tomatoes. It all felt real. Solid. Like a life built brick by brick. And for a while, I thought it was. Then the cracks began. Not like a shattering window, but hairline fractures in places you wouldn't notice unless you were really looking. It started with her energy. She was brighter. Not toward me, though. Toward life. Suddenly she was bursting with new ideas, changing her wardrobe, getting into obscure self-help podcasts, booking workshops with names like Unfolding the Feminine. I encouraged it. I wanted her to grow, to be happy. But she never really brought me into it. She'd come home from a session and say things like, "You wouldn't get it," or "It's something I need to do for myself." At first, I told myself that was fair. People need space. But it became a pattern. She'd head out to movement classes that didn't show up on her shared calendar anymore. I'd ask where she was going, and she'd answer too quickly, like the words were memorized. Just meeting Claire for a quick dinner. Or book club. But she hadn't mentioned a book in weeks. One night, she came home smelling like a different cologne. Not perfume. A man's cologne. It hit me when she kissed my cheek, a faint trace of something woody and sharp that I didn't wear. I remember thinking it might have just been from hugging a friend, but the scent stuck around longer than it should have. The intimacy faded slowly, like a dimmer switch. She'd curl into bed facing away from me. Her phone stayed on silent, always screen down. I'd reach for her and she'd murmur, "Not tonight, babe. I'm just so exhausted." Or she'd say she wasn't feeling great, or she had an early meeting. There was always a reason. Never cruel. Just distant. Measured. One evening, she said she was going to a late client dinner. I nodded. No big deal. She kissed my head, grabbed her purse, and left in a rush. But later that night, I realized she'd left behind her work tablet, the same one she always brought to meetings. I stared at it on the table for 10 minutes. Part of me wanted to open it. Another part hated myself for even considering it. I didn't touch it. I cleaned the kitchen instead. That's how deep my denial ran. I scrubbed the cutting board to silence the suspicion clawing at my gut. She started saying things like, "We should be able to grow separately," and "I think couples that don't challenge each other are just roommates." She never used to talk like that. She started sleeping in silk camisoles she never wore before, luxurious, delicate things she never bought while we were on shared budgets. I saw a bank alert for a boutique in Soho, $300 gone. She brushed it off. "Oh, that's just a gift for a client." Her smiles stayed, but they became thinner, like a mask painted over something she didn't want to say out loud. She began taking more solo trips. "It's just for clarity," she told me. "I need to check in with myself." She promised to call, but the calls got shorter, more distracted. The last time she went away, she posted an Instagram story of a sunset hike, except I realized the photo was geotagged somewhere completely different from where she said she'd be. When I asked, she laughed and said, "Oh, I must have uploaded the wrong one." Then she changed the subject. Her phone, once shared freely, now required Face ID only. One night, I caught a glimpse of a message preview, a name I didn't recognize. Just a heart emoji. I looked up at her, and she gave me this smile, like she already knew what I saw but dared me to say something. I didn't. I couldn't. Part of me still clung to the version of her that used to dance around the kitchen barefoot, hair in a messy bun, making bad puns about spaghetti. I didn't want to lose her. Or maybe I didn't want to admit I already had. So I smiled back, made a joke about ordering Thai food, and buried the moment under pad Thai and forced laughter. But inside, I was unraveling. Not all at once. Just thread by thread. Until I became a stranger in my own house, watching the woman I loved transform into someone I didn't recognize, someone who was slipping away with every carefully curated excuse and deflected gaze. And still, I said nothing. Because I still wanted to believe she was just lost, not already gone. It happened on a Wednesday. Nothing dramatic. No storm. No screaming match. Just an ordinary Wednesday wrapped in the skin of a lie. She told me she was heading straight to a client dinner after work. No time to come home. No need to wait up. I nodded like always, keeping my expression smooth, careful. I didn't believe her, not anymore, but I didn't let it show. I said, "Have fun," kissed her temple, and watched her walk out the door in a pencil skirt and a blouse I hadn't seen before. That wasn't unusual. She'd been dressing differently lately, sharper, more deliberate, as if she was curating herself for someone. I stood by the window after she left, watching the tail lights vanish into the distance. Then I went into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat down with my phone. I hadn't planned to check anything, but that part of me, the one she'd trained to trust her, was already dead. So I opened our shared cloud account. She didn't know it was still linked. She'd once set it up to sync photos across devices, back when sharing everything was the language of love. She never unlinked it. Or maybe she forgot. Either way, it became my quiet window into the parts of her life she thought she'd hidden. The first photo appeared around 8:27 p.m. blurry, like it was taken in motion. The inside of a car, city lights streaking across the glass. She was in the passenger seat. Someone else was driving. Male hands on the wheel. The second photo landed 5 minutes later. A drink. Negroni. A low-lit bar. I recognized it. I'd taken her there 2 years ago on our anniversary. It was our place. We even had a photo together at that very table. I'd held her hand there. Told her she looked like fire in that red dress. Now she was back, but not with me. The third photo ended it all. Her face in the mirror, half-turned. Lips glossy, hair loose. She was smiling, not like she did with me in recent months, not that polite, strained curve, but a real smile. Relaxed. Lit from inside. The kind you don't fake. I zoomed in, and behind her, reflected in the bar mirror, a man's face leaned in toward her neck. His mouth was close. Intimate. Like they'd done this before. Like they'd done it a lot. I didn't move for a full minute. Just stared at the screen as a new kind of silence filled the room. Not emptiness. Not sorrow. Something heavier. Something metallic. I put the phone down and stood up slowly, as if testing whether I still existed in this body. My mind went utterly calm. No panic. No fury. Just the kind of cold detachment you feel when you've seen enough blood to know you're not going to save the patient. I walked upstairs, sat at her vanity, and opened the top drawer. Her makeup was arranged with surgical precision, lipsticks like bullets in a row. I opened the second drawer. Jewelry. There it was. The engagement ring. Back in its tray, like it had never left. But I knew it had. I picked it up, turned it in my fingers, and saw it clearly now, not a symbol of love, but an accessory she slipped on and off depending on who she was pretending to be. I set it down gently. Then I went to her closet, pulled out her favorite black heels, and stared at the scuffed heel. Not a work scuff. Too fresh. Too deep. Like she'd caught it on concrete. Fast movement. Maybe a parking lot. Maybe somewhere cheap and fast. I sat on the bed and opened her laptop. She rarely used it these days. Everything was on her phone. But I remembered something she said once, months ago, about backing up her presentation files. I searched her recent documents. Nothing there. Then I checked AirDrop history. There it was. A file received 2 weeks ago. Unlabeled. I opened it. It was a photo, grainy but clear enough. Her, in a hotel room. Same silk robe from the mirror selfie. Sitting on a man's lap. His face wasn't visible, but his hand was spread across her thigh, wedding ring glinting. He was married. She wasn't just cheating, she was someone's dirty little secret. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred, not from tears, but from the sheer volume of disgust building inside me. Not for her. Not anymore. For myself, for letting it drag on this long. For clinging to a ghost she no longer wore. I closed the laptop. The lights in the house felt too bright. I walked to the kitchen, turned them off, and sat in the dark. That's where the plan began, not with a scream, but with a whisper in my mind, quiet and certain, make her regret every second. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of knowing I was broken. No. I was going to become the man she thought she could betray and walk away from only to realize she'd underestimated every part of me. I didn't need answers. I didn't need confessions. I already had enough. And soon, so would she. Just not in the way she expected. The silence between us became my greatest weapon. She still thought I was blind, still played her role with studied effort, still left notes on the fridge like "Don't forget trash day," and kissed my cheek before running out the door in heels she never used to wear. But every smile she gave me felt like a magician's sleight of hand, meant to distract from where her other hand was hiding the truth. I didn't question anything out loud. Instead, I began to trace shadows. The first step was data. I waited until she was asleep, her back turned, and used her thumb to unlock her phone. Nothing dramatic, just a ghost of a press. Her notifications were off. Clever. But she wasn't disciplined with her deletion habits. I checked app usage logs. WhatsApp, deleted 2 days ago. Telegram, recently reinstalled. I downloaded a forensic tool on my own laptop, something I had used in a past freelance tech gig, and cloned what I could from her old backups. Partial recoveries, fragments of chats, one-sided messages with no contact names, just "can't wait to see you again" fire, and "last night was insane." No context needed. I knew. But I wasn't here for outrage. I was building a map. The next move was financial. Our accounts were linked loosely, just enough for shared expenses. But I remembered she used a second credit card for her business expenses, one we'd agreed was hers alone. So I called in a favor, a former college buddy now working risk analytics at her card's issuing bank. I didn't ask for statements. I asked for patterns. Anomalies, I said. Recurring merchants. He owed me. In 2 days, I had a spreadsheet. Hotel charges, 2 boutique spots she never mentioned. Charges from a spa miles away from the retreat center she claimed to visit. And 1 recurring Uber drop-off location near a brownstone in Brooklyn. Not a business district. Not near any client offices. I searched the address, residential. Quiet street. She never had meetings there. I flagged the location. Then I played the social angle. She had a best friend, Brianna, loud, always laughing too hard, posting motivational quotes at 3 a.m. They weren't as close as they used to be, but Brianna still posted everything. I made a burner account, one of those vague profiles with travel photos and a dog. I followed her. She accepted. Easy. Within 3 days, I found a post tagged "Girls' Night" from 3 weeks ago. My wife was in the background. She wasn't supposed to be out that night. She told me she was sick, curled under a blanket with tea in hand. But there she was, tight red dress, lips curled around a wine glass, laughing into someone's ear-off frame. I didn't comment. I just downloaded it. I tested her lies like a scientist, subtle provocations to measure response. "How was that Thai place you said you tried with Claire?" I asked one morning. She blinked too fast. "So good," she said, then paused. "Wait, did I mention that?" She laughed it off. I meant to. It was last minute. But her voice lifted unnaturally at the end, a pitch I'd come to recognize as improvisation. I logged it. I began to track her stories, not her social media stories, but the narrative she fed me. I remembered them word for word. What excuse she used for what night. What event she claimed to attend. I started mapping them against what I knew. Phone records, card statements, location check-ins. They didn't match. Not once. She was operating with arrogance, repeating lies like I wasn't paying attention. But I was. I was studying her like a new language. One night, she came home tipsy. "Wine night with the girls," she slurred, dropping her purse by the door. I picked it up after she passed out and went through the receipts. No wine bar. Just one item, $2.40 from a rooftop restaurant we used to love. Only open for couples reservations. I set the trap 3 days later. Told her my boss was in town, asked if she could swing by his firm's office to drop off a client gift I forgot. She smiled, pecked my cheek. "Sure, text me the address." I gave her an office building near where she claimed to have meetings every Tuesday, except I knew she was never actually there. I waited. The delivery tracker I installed on the gift pinged me 30 minutes later. The package was signed for, but not by her. I called the receptionist. "No one by that name checked in today," she said. I thanked her. Hung up. No emotion. Just confirmation. She hadn't even gone into the building. She took the package and disappeared. Probably to him. I didn't speak a word when she got home. She talked about traffic, asked if I wanted leftover lasagna. I said sure. Smiled. Let her think she was winning. Let her believe I was too dull, too trusting, too slow to catch the sin of betrayal thick on her skin. I had the truth. All of it. And still, I stayed quiet. Because I wasn't done watching yet. I wanted to see what she would do when she thought no one was watching. I wanted to see how far she'd fall before I cut the cord and let her crash. The moment of reckoning was close. But not yet. First, I needed her to feel safe. I needed her to keep lying. Because the more lies she told, the deeper I buried the hook. And when I finally pulled, I wanted it to tear through every illusion she built. It was her company's holiday gala that gave me the perfect stage: black tie, candlelight, champagne flutes, and the illusion of class thick in the air like perfume. She spent a week obsessing over her dress, a velvet green slip that hugged her body like it knew it belonged to someone else now. She asked me which shoes looked best. Let me zip her up like nothing was broken between us, like my hand wasn't shaking from restraint. I smiled, complimented her, played my role. At the venue, we mingled, drank, laughed at fake jokes. I knew half the people there only by reputation, but I made conversation, shook hands, let them believe we were the perfect couple, elegant, aligned, untouchable. She was radiant. She always was when she was lying. I waited until dessert was served, until the room was warm with wine and laughter, and the string quartet softened into background noise. Then I stood up and tapped my glass, just once. She looked up, confused, as the room quieted. "I just want to say a few words," I said. I never raised my voice. I never looked at her. "I want to toast my wife, who has taught me more about silence, secrecy, and self-preservation than anyone ever has." Nervous chuckles. Some clapped awkwardly. She gave me that smile, tight and warning, trying to play along. "She works so hard," I continued, "and somehow still finds time for rooftop dinners, late-night rides to Brooklyn, and hidden weekends at boutique hotels that never appear on her calendar." Dead silence. Her fork hit the plate. "What are you talking about?" she said through clenched teeth, her voice sharp, low, only for me. I pulled my phone from my jacket, opened the photo, her on that stranger's lap, his wedding band in clear view, and laid it on the table in front of her. She stared at it like it might vanish if she blinked hard enough. Then it began. "This isn't what it looks like," she whispered, panicked. "It was just dinner. We were catching up." I didn't speak, just looked at her. "Okay. Yes, I was there, but it didn't mean anything. It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking." Her voice cracked, and her hand reached for mine. I didn't move. "You've been distant for months," she said, louder now, the panic turning into blame. "You shut me out. You didn't even notice when I tried, when I begged for connection." People were watching now, eyes flicking between us, forks hovering midair. "You don't understand what it's like to feel invisible," she snapped, her voice rising in volume, hoping to tilt the room in her favor. Then, the smirk. That bitter, tired weapon. "You act like you're some saint, but maybe if you were half as attentive during our marriage as you've been playing detective, we wouldn't be here." I let the silence stretch, let her sit in the rotting fruit of her own words. And then I said it. One sentence, calm, final. "You didn't just cheat on me. You downgraded your entire life." She flinched like I'd slapped her. The color drained from her face. And then the fear came. Real, sudden, like she was finally catching up to how far I was ahead. She glanced around the room, the hushed crowd, the judging stares, the whispers already starting. Her perfect image, crumbling in a room of her peers. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. I leaned forward, folded my napkin, and whispered, "Smile for the cameras." Then I sat back, untouched, while she stared at me like I was someone she never really knew. Because she never did. She built lies on the idea that I was predictable. But I was never predictable. I was patient, and that's always more dangerous. She followed me out of the gala like a storm chasing a calm sky, her heels striking the pavement too hard, too fast, each step echoing louder than the last. I didn't turn around. I let the silence grow teeth. She finally caught up, grabbed my arm, spun me to face her, mascara already smudging under her eyes. "What the hell was that?" she hissed. "You ambushed me in front of my colleagues." Her voice cracked, raw and ragged, but I just looked at her like she was a stranger yelling in a language I'd once spoken. "You could have talked to me. We could have worked through this," she snapped, shaking her head, disbelief cracking into anger. "But no, you had to be the dramatic one, the victim, the martyr. Is that it? You needed a show?" I said nothing. She stepped back, her laugh bitter and sharp. "God, you always made everything so calculated. You smothered me, you know that? Every decision had to be run by you. Every plan dissected like we were co-managing a corporation. You took the fun out of life." I watched her try to build momentum, try to get her footing back by throwing stones at a man who'd already walked through the fire. "I felt like I was suffocating," she said, her voice rising. You're boring. You know that? Reliable, dependable, safe. That's not love, that's a cage. Still, I said nothing. Her breathing got shallow. She needed me to break, needed some flicker of emotion to claw at. But there was nothing left. Say something, she screamed. I looked her in the eye and said, that man you're defending doesn't even claim you publicly. She staggered, blinked like I'd slapped her again. You don't know him. He understands me, she said, but her voice had lost its edge. He listens. He sees me. I leaned closer. He hides you. Her mouth opened, then closed. I could see the math in her head, the memories of late-night exits, of being second place in someone else's life. She tried to pivot, tried to reel me back in. I made a mistake, okay? One mistake. People do worse. This doesn't erase everything we had. Her tone softened, the tears now more performance than pain. You were my best friend. Don't let this destroy everything. I stared at her. You destroyed it the moment you chose secrets over respect. She broke then, truly broke, her voice slipping into panic. So what? What now? You just walk away? You just throw away 7 years like they meant nothing. Her desperation leaked through the cracks of her anger. You can't just give up on us. You're not that cold. I stepped back, letting her see the full distance. I gave up the day you stopped looking at me like I was enough. She inhaled sharply, eyes wide, like she finally understood that there was no version of this where she wins. Don't do this, she whispered. You're making a mistake. I tilted my head. No. I made a mistake trusting you wouldn't become this. She dropped the act then, full tilt into venom. You were never a real man. That's why I left. He made me feel alive. You made me feel like homework. Her eyes dared me to react, to rise, to fight back. I didn't. I let the silence stretch long enough for her words to rot in the air. Then I said, he didn't make you feel alive. He made you feel temporary. That's why you're still chasing him. Her face crumpled, rage giving way to something worse, recognition. She knew I was right. She knew I wasn't just walking away, I was ascending. I had already stepped out of the narrative, and she was still stuck trying to edit the script. You'll regret this, she said quietly, like a threat whispered through broken pride. I leaned in one last time, my voice low and precise. No, you will. But it'll be when you realize I meant every word I ever gave you, and you gambled it for a man who won't even hold your hand in daylight. Then I turned, walked toward the car, and left her there, alone under the halo of the streetlight, not with a villain, not with a monster, but with something she feared far more, the version of me she could never manipulate again. Revenge isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It breathes slow, moves like smoke through every crack she never thought to seal. The night after the confrontation, I didn't sleep. I didn't need to. I wasn't fueled by rage. I was powered by clarity. She'd spent months curating an illusion, thinking she held the cards, thinking I was predictable, weak, forgiving. That was her final miscalculation. I began where it mattered, the foundation. I pulled every financial statement from our shared accounts, every investment, every credit line, every transaction she thought I wouldn't notice. I isolated all assets in my name, froze joint credit, transferred liquidity into separate holdings under a trust one had set up the year before, back when something deep in my gut whispered that I might need an exit one day. She had access to nothing by the time the sun rose. Her card declined at a cafe that morning. I know because I set the alert. I took back the car she drove, leased under my name. Called the dealership, had the key codes reset. While she scrambled for an Uber, I filed a motion for divorce, prepped weeks in advance, waiting only for the final trigger. The evidence packet was 134 pages, meticulously documented. Timestamps, photos, location data, a forensic breakdown of her cloud backups, GPS logs, messages. Her affair partner? Married with 2 kids. I found his wife's Instagram through tagged photos. Reached out anonymously, sent a single PDF file titled, "You deserve the truth." Her reply came within an hour. Thank you. I've suspected for months. They say karma takes time. I didn't give it the chance. I became karma. I notified her HR department, not with accusations, but with facts, screenshots of her explicit messages exchanged on company time, during client meetings. I didn't threaten, didn't scream. Just attached the files and wrote, "Thought you'd want visibility before this becomes a liability." I never heard back. But 2 days later, her calendar showed a sudden leave of absence. I contacted her parents, not in malice, but in calm, collected finality. I told them the marriage was over, that she had been unfaithful, that I wouldn't be answering further questions. Then I forwarded the same PDF I'd sent his wife. Her father responded with a single sentence, "I'm ashamed." Her mother didn't respond at all. I didn't go public. I didn't post. I let the silence tell the story. People don't need noise to hear a downfall. They feel it in the absence of defense. I changed the locks while she was at her friend's. Not that she ever had many. I left her a box of essentials on the porch, nothing sentimental. No photos. No gifts. Just the basics and a printed note. Do not return. The apartment lease was in my name. Utilities? Switched. Subscriptions? Canceled. I made it so her entire existence within my world vanished in a matter of days. I cleaned our digital life too, passwords changed, accounts scrubbed, her fingerprints deleted from devices, her profile locked out of everything we once shared. Even Spotify. She would scroll through silence and find nothing familiar. That was intentional. Every thread she thought she held unraveled quietly beneath her feet. She tried to call once. I watched the screen flash her name and did nothing. Then the texts came. "Can we talk? Please don't do this. You're being cruel." I archived them without reading. That was the cruelest part. She didn't get the satisfaction of knowing how much she hurt me. She didn't get closure. Just consequence. Meanwhile, I moved on the professional front. Polished my LinkedIn. Cleaned up my image. Networked. Scheduled lunches. The whispers about her had already started circling through industry contacts. After all, a scandal like that doesn't stay sealed. And she'd brought it into her own office, her own reputation. I didn't even have to push. I just opened the first crack and let gravity do the rest. I made sure everything I did was clean, legal, documented, irrefutable. There would be no court battle, just paperwork. No screaming matches, just silence. And she still didn't see it coming. Still thought she could win me back. Still thought there was time to pivot, to manipulate, to cry her way back into control. But control wasn't hers anymore. It never would be again. Because while she was playing checkers with a man she thought was too docile to fight, I had already played and won the game of chess. All that remained now was for her to realize the life she set on fire wasn't the prison she imagined. It was the only real thing she ever had. And now it was gone. Not stolen. Not destroyed. Just reclaimed. Without apology. Without mercy. It happened at her sister's engagement party, a golden hour rooftop affair wrapped in string lights, champagne flutes, and a sea of curated smiles. I was invited, of course, because as far as most knew, we were still technically together. She wanted to keep up appearances, keep the image of a functioning, civilized separation intact. For the sake of family, she had said, her voice trembling with forced grace. I agreed. I told her I'd come. And I did, arriving exactly 10 minutes after her, dressed sharp, composed, ice in my veins. She wore a pale blue dress that dipped low in the back, the kind that begged for attention. And for the first hour, she floated through the crowd like nothing had changed. She laughed too loud, touched too many arms, performed affection with the desperation of someone who knew her stage was about to collapse. I kept to the edges, silent, sipping my drink as the crowd parted slightly every time I moved. People had seen the screenshots. Not because I sent them, but because truth leaks when pressure builds. Her lover's wife had gone public on her private socials. Quiet posts. Cryptic captions. Screenshots blurred just enough to give plausible deniability, but sharp enough for anyone who knew her to recognize my wife's face. Word spread fast, especially among the inner circle. Her sister had seen the photos before today. Her best friend, once her shadow, now stood next to me. I didn't ask for support, it just shifted. Loyalty has a gravity of its own, and hers had disintegrated. And then came the moment. Her father, gray and stiff in the collar, approached her with a phone in his hand. No words, just showed her the screen. She froze mid-laugh. The smile didn't fall all at once. It twitched, fought, trembled like a dying engine. Then the mask cracked. "This is fake," she said too quickly, voice brittle. "Someone's trying to ruin me." Her father didn't blink. Her mother turned away. I watched from 10 feet back, expressionless. She saw me. Our eyes locked. And I didn't look away. That was the beginning of her unraveling. "Why are you all looking at me like that?" She snapped. "You think you know the whole story? You don't know what it was like being with him. He made me feel small." Her voice pitched higher, sharp and splintering. People stopped talking. Glasses paused mid-air. Her sister turned pale. "I gave everything to that marriage," she said louder now, the panic leaking through her eyeliner. "I gave up opportunities, time, he never appreciated me." A few people shifted away. Someone whispered. Her voice faltered. "This is all out of context." She turned to me. "Tell them. Tell them it wasn't that serious. I didn't say a word. Just held her gaze. Cold. Clean. Indifferent. That was what did it. Not rage. Not insults. Just the void where love used to be. Her hands trembled. She turned to her friend group, once loyal, now fragmented. You're seriously taking his side? She barked, voice cracking. Her best friend flinched. I saw the messages, she said quietly. We all did. My wife laughed. Ugly, high-pitched. Oh, wow. So this is how it ends? You all think he's the victim? He's not. But she stopped. Because her lover walked in. Alone. No ring. He saw her. She smiled, desperate, relief flickering in her eyes like a drowning woman seeing land. He didn't stop walking. Didn't come to her. Just looked at her once, expression unreadable, and walked past. Straight to the exit. No words. Just gone. She stood there, mouth open, alone in the center of a crowd that had once orbited her. Silence thickened. Her chest rose and fell too fast. She blinked hard. You think this is the worst thing that's happened to anyone here? She snapped, trying to regain footing. The silence was her answer. Even the music had died. I stepped forward, slowly, one hand in my pocket. She turned to me like I was her last refuge. Her last audience. Please, she whispered, don't let them do this to me. I stared at her, and in that moment, she saw it. The final truth. That I wasn't going to rescue her. That I never would again. She staggered backward like the absence of forgiveness was a punch to the chest. Her face crumpled, but she fought the tears, still clinging to control like a drunk clings to a bottle. But no one moved. No one comforted. No one followed. And I stood there, not as her husband, not as her savior, but as her reckoning. That's what ended her. Not the exposure. Not the silence. But the fact that I stayed. Watched. Witnessed her collapse without flinching. She knew, in that final moment of breathless isolation, that I wasn't haunted by her anymore. I was free. And she would never be. It was supposed to be a family dinner, something her mother had arranged weeks ago as an olive branch, a quiet evening of reconciliation and talking things through over wine and steak. I agreed, not because I wanted peace, but because I knew she was still clinging to the idea that this could be salvaged. She arrived late, of course, hair too perfect, smile too stiff, I scanning the room like a politician checking poll numbers. Her parents were already there, quiet and cautious. My brother and sister-in-law sat at the far end of the table, tension in their posture. I barely touched my drink. She slid into the chair across from me like this was all beneath her. Can we at least try to be civil? She said with a smirk, like the last few weeks hadn't happened. Let's not make a scene. That was her first mistake, thinking this dinner was about civility. My brother leaned forward. We're just here to hear the truth, he said. Her eyes snapped to him. You don't know what you're talking about. Then she looked at me. You've poisoned everyone. You always did this. You twist things. I set my glass down. Twist. I said. You mean like when you twisted your vows around some married man's fingers in a Brooklyn hotel? The room froze. Her face flushed, but her voice rose fast, defensive. It wasn't serious. It was a mistake. One mistake. You act like I committed a crime. Her mother lowered her head. Her father stared at her, unblinking. You didn't just cheat, I said, louder now. You lied every day. Every morning. Every smile, every I love you was a performance. A script. And you dragged it out while you were screwing someone else's husband. She stood, voice trembling. You want to humiliate me? That's what this is about? Fine, congratulations. You win. You always had to win. Her voice cracked on the last word, but she kept going. You're a control freak. You're cold. I cheated because I was dying inside. I needed to feel alive again. She turned to her mother. You told me to marry him. You said he was a good man. Well, good men can be soul killers too. Her father slammed his hand on the table. Stop it. His voice silenced the room. You embarrassed us. You disgraced your family. And now you're standing here blaming everyone but yourself. She flinched. You have no idea what our marriage was like, she hissed. He was distant. He made me feel invisible. I stood slowly. Invisible? You were center stage. I built my life around you. Every decision, every sacrifice, I did it with you in mind. But it was never enough, because nothing is ever enough for someone who thinks they're entitled to more than loyalty. Her hands shook. I didn't want more. I just wanted to feel something. You think this is all about sex? It wasn't. It was about not feeling like a ghost in my own life. My sister-in-law stepped in. You burned down a good man's life because you were bored. That's not noble. That's pathetic. Gasps. She turned on her. Oh, you would say that. You've always hated me. My brother rose. No. We protected you. Even when we saw the signs. Even when he wouldn't admit what was right in front of him. We defended you. She threw her hands up. You all act like I'm some monster. Like I'm the only one who's ever made a mistake. Her voice was raw now. What about him? He emotionally checked out for years. He never listened. He never asked me what I needed. I took a step forward. You never said what you needed. You waited in silence and punished me for not reading your mind, and when that didn't give you the thrill you wanted, you found someone else who could give you attention without commitment. And you knew he was married. You knew. She broke then. The tears finally came, streaking through the last of her foundation. I didn't mean to hurt you. Her voice was small. Childish. I just didn't know how to fix it. You didn't try, I said. You quit. You just wanted to feel powerful. And now that everyone knows who you really are, you're scrambling to rewrite the story. A friend of hers, one of the few still in her corner, stood near the door, phone in hand. She'd been recording. She wasn't hiding it. This is what happens when you treat love like a trophy, I continued. You lose it to someone who actually earned it. My wife collapsed back into her seat, shoulders shaking. Her father looked away in disgust. Her mother wiped a tear. The room was stone silent except for her sobs. And I just stood there, calm, unshaken, like a man who had already buried the version of her he once loved. You wanted a reaction, I said finally. But you're not getting rage. You're getting reality. And that hurts more. Then I walked out, past the cameras, past the whispers, past the ruins she built with her own hands. And I didn't look back. Because what was left behind wasn't my wife anymore. It was just the aftermath. She faded in stages, not all at once. After the confrontation, after the dinner where she ripped herself open in front of everyone and expected someone, anyone, to catch her, she disappeared for a while. Social media vanished. Her name scrubbed from tags and group photos. Her LinkedIn quietly seeking new opportunities without mentioning where she'd come from. The job let her go, of course. Officially it was restructuring, but everyone knew why. Her reputation was a liability now. Her name a silent weight no employer wanted near their brand. I didn't have to say a word. The truth did all the work. Her friends, the ones who used to flood comment sections with heart emojis and inside jokes, went quiet. Then came the unfollows. Then the blocks. Even the ones she thought were ride or die stopped answering. No one wants to stand next to fire when the smoke starts choking them. She moved out of the city eventually. I heard it through someone who knew someone. Small town, cheap rent, hourly work at a place where no one asked questions, and she didn't have to explain why she looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. The affair partner ghosted her right after everything went public. His wife filed for divorce, took the kids, took the house. He moved out of state. No goodbye. No closure. Just vanished. All the things she thought were worth risking everything for slipped through her fingers like sand. She sent messages. First just one. Then a few. Then a long string of them that read like a slow-motion collapse. I don't know who I am anymore. You were the only person who ever really knew me. I still love you. I'd do anything to undo what I did. I didn't reply. Not a word. I let her talk to the void. She tried calling. Then showing up. One rainy night, I opened my front door to see her standing there soaked through. No umbrella, makeup ruined, eyes wild and hollow. Please, she whispered. I don't know where else to go. I didn't invite her in. I didn't ask how she got here. I didn't even blink. She stepped forward. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just need you to see me. The real me. The one who's still in here somewhere. I lost myself. Her voice cracked. She was shaking. I know I ruined everything. I know I broke you. But I swear I loved you. I swear it meant something. I looked at her then, not with hate, not with love. Just with absence. Like she was a name I once read in a book I no longer owned. You don't need to explain, I said quietly. This is exactly who you are. She gasped like I'd slapped her, like those words were heavier than any scream. And then she asked it, the question they always ask when it's far too late. Is there any chance? Any part of you that still loves me? I didn't hesitate. No. And if I could forget you existed, I would. She crumbled, just folded in on herself like gravity had finally won. And I closed the door. Not with anger. With finality. I never heard from her again. And I didn't need to. I never wanted vengeance. I wanted clarity. I wanted her to stand in the ruins she built and understand, fully, deeply, that the life she destroyed was the best thing that would ever happen to her. And now? Now I sleep. Peacefully. No lies. No shadows, just silence. The kind that comes after a storm when everything broken has finally been cleared. She thought she could wreck me and walk away. She didn't expect that I would be the one walking, calm, clean, free, while she stood in the ashes, whispering apologies to a ghost. What would you have done if it was your wife?